Welcome back. Today we are turning our attention to one of the most contentious issues currently facing Israeli society and its security establishment, the Draft Exemption Law, specifically the new proposal known as the Bismuth Outline. Context here is essential. Israel is currently navigating a severe security crisis. The Israel Defense Forces have made it clear that they are facing a significant manpower shortage, with the army stating a need for between 10,000 and 20,000 additional soldiers. Against this backdrop, the political system has introduced a new legislative framework led by member of Knesset Boaz Bismuth, the new chair of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. The stated goal of this bill is to integrate ultra-Orthodox or Haredi men into the military. However, a close reading of the text reveals a significant gap between the bill's stated intent and its likely operational outcome. Let's begin with the numbers. The outline proposes an enlistment target for the first year of 4,800 recruits. On the surface, this appears to be an increase from previous years. However, when placed in context, the figure is arguably negligible. The current pool of draft-eligible Haredi men stands at approximately 100,000. Therefore, this law targets less than 5% of the eligible population. Furthermore, the bill includes a safety net clause. This provision states that if recruitment targets are missed by up to 25% in the first year, no sanctions will be applied. This effectively lowers the real target from 4,800 to roughly 3,600. Additionally, an advisory committee retains the authority to reduce these targets further, potentially to zero, if they determine the IDF has not sufficiently adapted its environment for Haredi service. This leads us to the second critical issue: definitions. Who actually counts as a Haredi recruit? The Bismuth Outline utilizes a very broad definition. It classifies anyone who attended a Haredi high school for as little as 2 years as Haredi for the purpose of these quotas. Data suggests that approximately 70% of the individuals fitting this specific criteria are no longer part of the Haredi community by the time they reach draft age. The implication here is significant. The IDF could theoretically meet a large portion of these Haredi quotas by drafting men who have already left the yeshiva world and who likely would have enlisted regardless. This creates a statistical success without actually tapping into the core population of yeshiva students or alleviating the burden on the serving reservists. Finally, we must examine the enforcement mechanisms, the sanctions. Effective legislation requires accountability, yet this outline offers very limited leverage. The proposed personal sanctions, such as restrictions on driver's licenses, expire at age 23. Given that behavioral changes take time, a sanction that expires so early offers little long-term deterrent. Moreover, the bill relies heavily on institutional sanctions, cutting budgets to yeshivas, rather than personal consequences for the individual draft evader. Historically, these institutional penalties have often been offset by other coalition funding mechanisms. Perhaps most notably, the application of these sanctions relies on the Minister of Defense actually issuing draft notices. If the minister chooses not to issue the notices, no one is technically dodging the draft and therefore no sanctions apply. It creates a circular loophole that relies entirely on political will. In summary, while the Bismuth Outline is presented as a solution to the manpower crisis and the issue of equality, the fine print suggests a different reality. By setting low targets, using broad definitions and establishing weak enforcement mechanisms, the proposal appears to formalize the status quo rather than reform it. For an army in urgent need of personnel, and an economy that needs this demographic in the workforce, this legislation may fall short of the necessary strategic correction. Thank you for listening.
G.